So as you may know, Rings of Power probably has not had the best promo going on since this show was announced. It's literally been panned by the fans. Literally every trailer is getting hundreds of thousands of dislikes. A lot of people who are fans of the source material are not fans of this show whatsoever, but it just seems like bad press just keeps coming for Amazon's Rings of Power. Let's discuss. So Amazon's Rings of Power is due to release on September the 2nd, and there's a lot of skepticism about this show going forward, from changes that have been made from the source material to certain things that people involved in the making of this show have come out and said. There's even now a new petition out that is petitioning against the re-release of the original Lord of the Rings book with Rings of Power covers. This petition is getting a lot of traction and a lot of people are signing this petition. At time of recording, it's already got around about 10,000 people that have signed up, with expected to get a lot more than that. But today's video, we are going to be talking about what the director of the original trilogy, Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson, had to say about the show. So, in an article on The Hollywood Reporter, they're reporting a podcast that Peter Jackson was actually on. The headline states, Peter Jackson says Amazon's Lord of the Rings TV series ghosted him. So let's see what exactly he said. This is what the article says. Peter Jackson is weighing in on Amazon's Lord of the Rings TV series. The Oscar-winning director of the Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit trilogies reveals the studio asked him to be involved with its upcoming mega budget series, Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, and promised to send him scripts, then never contacted him again. See, in my opinion, they started well. They said they wanted him involved. And I feel like people may have given this show a bit more chance if Peter Jackson was involved. Even though there are some people out there that weren't fans of the Hobbit series. I actually enjoyed those films, but I know a lot of people didn't, and that's okay. But I still think they would have given it give him more of a time of day, because he's got some credit in the bank. There's Amazon's got no credit in the bank. This is their first attempt at it. And this is exactly what he said. He said, they asked me if I wanted to be involved. Apparently, writer-producer Fran Walsh was the one that asked him. And I said, that's an impossible question to answer without seeing a script. Jackson recalled to Scott Feinberg on the Hollywood Reporter's Award Chatter podcast. So they said, as soon as we get the first couple of scripts, we'll send them to you. And the scripts never showed up. That's the last thing I heard, which is fine. No complaints at all. So basically, it seems to me, once he wanted to know the direction they were going with this TV series, they were like, yeah, we can't show him that. Which tells me they wanted him on board just to get the fans on board, and they were going to basically tie all of his hands behind his back and basically tell him what he could do. In an upcoming business podcast, talking to Hollywood Reporter's Kim Masker, the filmmaker had this to say. About 4 or 5 years ago, they asked if I would be interested in it, he says. So I said, have you got the scripts yet? Because I know how hard the scripts were to write for the films, and I didn't know the people writing their scripts. They said, oh no, we haven't got the scripts yet, but as soon as we do, we'll send you the scripts. So I was waiting for the scripts to arrive, and they never did. Back in 2018, Jackson told the UK's Metro, I think they're going to send us some scripts to see if we can help them along. Still, Jackson emphasizes that he harbors no hard feelings towards Amazon series and is eager to watch it as a fan of the franchise. I'll be watching it, he says. I'm not the sort of guy who wishes ill will. Filmmaking's hard enough. If someone makes a good film or TV show, it's something to celebrate. The one thing I'm looking forward to is actually seeing it as a perfectly neutral viewer. Jackson adds that Amazon is betting the farm on Tolkien, giving its massive $500 million budget for the show's debut season. $500 million they are spending on this show and have done nothing but try to fuck it up. I mean, we haven't seen the show yet. It may be a great show, but this is probably some of the worst marketing and promoting I've ever seen of a TV show ever. They're just consistently coming out here and telling the Lord of the Rings fans everything they don't want to hear. And it just baffles me. I'd love to know who's behind these teams and saying, yeah, that we should do this, we should say that. Because everything right now, I have never seen a show with such a large fan base in the history of movie and television be like so disliked before a single episode has even aired. And it's at a point now where I actually think that so many people don't want to like it, that even if it is good, they're not going to like it. They're going to convince themselves it's terrible and they will refuse to like it. And that's bad, man. That just goes to show you that their marketing team have done a terrible, terrible job. They went to Comic-Con. That was meant to be the time to shine and convince every fan that was against the show, be like, no, it's going to be all right. Look how great it is. And they did the complete opposite at Comic-Con. So apparently Amazon also responded to what he had to say. And this is going to be interesting. This is what they said. Amazon Studios responded to Jackson's comments with the following. In pursuing the rights for our show, we were obliged to keep the series distinct and separate from the films. We have the utmost respect for Peter Jackson and the Lord of the Rings films, and are thrilled that he is looking forward to watching the Rings of Power. Sources close to the project describe a complicated and delicate backstory to the situation. First, that the studio has high regard for Jackson, and that the Rings of Power showrunners J.D. Payne and Patrick McKay have privately attempted to make overtures to the filmmaker. But as the statement suggests, there were also legal concerns about keeping the films, which are owned by Warner Brothers, and a TV show separate. There have been executive changes during the time period in question as well, with former head of genre programming Sharon Tao Yaguado, whom one source described as an advocate of luring Jackson to the project, departing the company in 2019. Perhaps even more crucially, sources say author J.R.R. Tolkien's estate was against having Jackson on board. This shouldn't be surprising, as the estate had no involvement with his films, and Christopher Tolkien has previously slammed the trilogy in the press as eviscerating his father's books, claiming they turned his novel into action movies for young people that lack beauty and seriousness. But the state is involved with the series. Amazon paid the estate an astonishing $250 million for the rights to make the show. All that said, one does simply not offer to send Peter Jackson a Lord of the Rings script and then leave the man hanging. Exactly. I mean, I couldn't have said that better myself. If you didn't want him involved from the start, why did you even mention a script to him? Why did you even contact him? Leave the man be. There was no need to start talking to this dude. Because now he's been asked about it. He's being honest. He's coming out and telling people what happened. And it's starting to look bad on you. You know what I mean? It doesn't look good. And, you know, at the end of the day, I can understand the estate because he did make a few changes. But at the end of the day, with Peter Jackson, it felt like he made the changes with good intentions. And with this show, it doesn't seem like it's the same intentions. This show seems like the intentions have got nothing to do with translating the books to the screen. There's other intentions here. Like you're seeing a lot in Hollywood right now. Is box ticking. That's what you're getting right now. Ticking boxes, try to impress people that don't even like the shit. The article continues though, and here the article continues, and this is what they go on to say. It says, moving on, Jackson was asked also if a movie studio would greenlight his trilogy today, answering, probably not with a director like me, and a studio that would put its money on the line for 3 movies, it said. As for his trilogy's legacy, Jackson said, if there was anything we gave to the ongoing community of filmmaking, it's that we opened up the CGI bag of tricks that have huge battle scenes. That's a bit of a modest answer, considering epic fantasy shows such as HBO's Game of Thrones would likely have never been greenlit if not for his trilogy's massive box office and awards success. Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power follows the forging of the original Rings of Power during the Second Age that allowed the Dark Lord Sauron to spread evil across Middle-earth. It's set thousands of years before the events of Jackson's trilogy. The show premieres on Prime Video on the 2nd of September. So, there you have it. Peter Jackson ghosted by Amazon. They didn't want him to have any involvement. Their excuse was we wanted to separate this show from the movies because Warner Brothers own the movies. But in reality, him being involved is not going to make them connect, if you know what I mean. Yes, he being involved, I feel like you could have had him come in and overlook the whole production and say, yeah, okay, no, maybe you shouldn't do this, maybe you should do this, etc., etc. You don't have to listen to him, but We're talking about a man that has done 6 movies to do with these books. Sorry. I think he knows his way around these stories. And I think he was probably the best person to have on board that was in Hollywood. I mean, no one else probably had as much knowledge about this franchise in Hollywood than he did, other than Tolkien himself. I mean, maybe his family know as much as his dad, or more than Peter Jackson, but they're not they're not making movies. They need someone who knew the franchise that makes movies to come in. And instead, they've brought a bunch of new people in, younger people, probably have no affiliation with this. If Comic-Con said anything to me, it said that no one involved in this production has ever read a lick of these books. Not one, And that's kind of sad to me, man. These books, they're not like hundreds of quid. You can go and grab one on Amazon, read through it. Know what you're doing. But actors nowadays, they don't want to read no source material. Directors want to do their own image. They don't want to pay any attention. I'll be honest with you, Hollywood right now, if a director could do a film and completely ignore the source material, they would. They ignore most of it nowadays, but they try and keep little bits. But they don't want to, because they feel like it constricts what they can do. Because they want to get praise for this movie. They don't want to see, like, for example, if I'm making a movie about a source material that I'm passionate about, I'm going to do everything in my power to make sure my film basically is a live action version of the source material that I loved. Nowadays, everyone wants their vision. And sometimes the fans don't want your vision. They want that source material that they love so much. But because you're shoving your vision into it, they don't get that no more. And then they don't like it. Sometimes a director's vision and the source material can come hand in hand and be beautiful. I'm thinking James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy. That is a James Gunn movie, but it's also Guardians of the Galaxy. The Russo brothers is another example. Sometimes a director can get their vision and keep just enough source material intact that everyone is happy. But nowadays, directors don't want to meet halfway. They want their vision, and the studio wants, their boxes ticked. Yeah, it's just ridiculous. This whole Amazon thing is an absolute mess. They have made an absolute joke of their marketing scheme. They have probably thrown this whole show under a bus by how they have promoted and marketed this TV show. If it's successful, I'll be stunned. I'm definitely gonna watch it. Few episodes, unless it's horrendous, then I'll stop. But man, whoever's running the show for this show is doing a bad job. And well, I guess we'll see. We'll see how this is gonna play out. But at the moment, man, it's not looking good for Amazon. I mean, could you imagine 500 million and then it flops? Who knows, man. Well, anyway, guys, thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Take care, and remember, live long and prosper.